Ready?
Yes, sir.
Pat Oplander just returned from Palm Springs, California. And he said he's missed the weather here. So I'd like for him, now that he's in a daze, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the January 31, 2019 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I currently serve as chair of the commission and represent District 3 alongside Commissioner Bill Rippon, who represents District 1, and Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First item of business, please. Before we get started, the sheriff has asked me to pull item D, so if we would formally do that from the agenda, item D. Thank you, ma'am. Next, first item, please.
Under proclamations, presentation on the successful reaccreditation of the Department of Corrections Juvenile Detention Center by the American Correctional Association. Brian Cole, Department of Corrections.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. Earlier, I had presented or gave a brief update of where everybody was at regarding our reaccreditation process, and to give everybody some history, about 16, 17 years ago, we decided when we wanted to make a change in how we did business at the Department of Corrections, one of those was to seek accreditation through the whole entire facility, and that's a long journey. We started out with the Juvenile Detention Center and was awarded accreditation at the American Correctional Association 3 years ago. Now we're back to the reaccreditation cycle. And we all sat down and decided, is this something we want to continue to do? Because cost close to about $10,000. And then you put in the hard work that goes along with this, and we all decided as a management team, yes. I do have Deputy Director Eve Kendall and Division Manager Brandy Biltoff here to talk about it, because they're the ones that do the work. It isn't me. I'm the one that gets the calls and say, thank you, good job, Brian, and things like that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize those who, and this does take a team effort throughout the department, but I would like to have Eve and Brandy come up and explain the process and the work that they went through in New Orleans and stuff like that, because they're the ones that deserve the credit.
Good morning, Captain Brandy Biltoft. When we went to the decision of being reaccredited, we, again, total team effort, had many people that had to put policies together, files together, all that great stuff. When the auditors actually came, there's a total of 422 standards, ACA standards, that we have to look at. Of those, 30 of them are mandatory, so we have to meet those or we've automatically failed. And then there's 392 non-mandatory. Of those, you have to meet at least 90% of them. When the audit was over, of the applicable mandatory standards, there were 29, and we met all those 100%. Of the non-mandatory, there were 371 non-mandatory that applied to us, and we met those 99.7%. So we did really well. We had lots of people that put time and energy and effort into this, and as Director Cole already said, it's a total team effort and a total it's good. It's good for us. It's to do it again. Our auditors the first time told us that the first audit would be difficult, but the second audit, the reaccreditation, would be 10 times worse. So we were a little leery of what we were getting ourselves into. But by the time the audit was finalized and to hear how well we did, it was a lot of pride. So. And I appreciate everybody's assistance with it.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eve Kendall, Department of Corrections. It was a pretty thorough, intensive inspection when they were here on grounds. But then when we went to New Orleans for the panel hearing, We were expecting a few questions that we knew about, but then we had questions that we had no idea that they would ask us about. And it's only through all the teamwork and everything that we had and the knowledge that we gained from working with everyone within our department that we were able to answer the questions that we had. They were asking us different things about how one of the juveniles was treated because she was pregnant, and the process that we went through, and who she saw, and what we did, and so on and so forth. They were asking us about our key control and how often we look at our keys and inspect our keys, and the inventories and so on and so forth. And we weren't expecting any of those questions. So we kind of looked at ourselves, it had deer in the headlight for a second, but we were able, to respond appropriately. When they were here, it wasn't just them coming and doing a cursory tour of the Juvenile Detention Center. They were moving things around and looking behind things, and we were like, wow. Looking to see if we had, if we say we have something going, so many restraints in a certain area, that we have a shadow board that shows that we have all these restraints and so on and so forth. Through all this process, our culture has had to change at the Juvenile Detention Center because we want to be such a model correctional facility. Going through this accreditation process twice now, it's been 6 years now. It's been quite the process, and our culture has changed for the better within our department. Wanting to be a model correction facility can be quite the effort sometimes, especially since the target keeps on moving in corrections and in law enforcement. So being able to make this happen and be successful at it, and allowing us to go through this effort has been very beneficial for us, and we hope that we are able to continue to be a model for the agent for corrections, and a model that shows that Shawnee County is doing what's good and what's right, and that's always a good thing. So thank you.
I just was going to say that they do a lot of work. Brandy has a job that I don't think anybody else would want. She has to hold everybody accountable, and that means me, where my stuff like that. But that puts Shawnee County in the top 1% of the United States, and that's quite an ordeal. So I'm very proud that we have this, that the community could come in. I know we're not without our challenges, but when people come in and we have lawsuits or people question what we do, or a public relations board come through, we can give them and be able to say we're an accredited facility, we're supported by our county commissioners in doing the best job we can. So thank you very much, and I'd stand for any questions you might have.
No, thank you, Brian. This is a tribute, I think, that's well-deserved. On another level, how does the public benefit from this accreditation? I mean, how does it help the man on the street?
Well, what it does is number one, it sets a benchmark of the standard of services that we're obligated to serve. There's a lot of language in the law, and County Councilor Jim Crowell can tell you that when you have to just provide adequate services, or you just have to maintain a certain level. We go above and beyond that when it comes to life safety. A lot of jails don't have suicide policies. So when they come in, what this means is that we have to have credentialed staff, both mental and medical, that they have to have credentials, that we're watching it, that we have to have policies that exceed national standards, both fire, safety, and that those are audited, that people come in, so there's a lot of eyes on us, number one. It tells us where our weaknesses are. We have a group of people that will come defend us or help the county counselor's office. But basically what it tells the person on the street is that you spend a lot of money that goes to the Department of Corrections, and that we take it very serious, and we want to make sure that the services that you get at the jail, and you are behind the walls, so to speak, but the services you get are audited, they're looked at, they're top-notch, and that we have to have a very high level of standard that puts us far above a lot of the other jails.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Are there any questions or comments additional for Brian? Commissioner?
Brian, I think that, while you've talked about the reasons why we go through the accreditation, I know the public is often going to ask, is the cost worth it? I mean, we're talking about the cost, not just the physical cost of, the accreditation process, but the amount of hours that go into it. When we look at our moving forward, for accreditation for the adult facility. Are we going to be able to take what we've learned from the juvenile accreditation and directly apply that to the adult facility?
Well, yes. The adult is under, and Brandy probably have to help me, the adult's under a whole different set of standards, which are much more labor-intensive. But the answer is yes, we will. The cost, in my opinion, is well worth it. It's nothing compared to the staff, and Eve mentioned it, they have a culture that they want to work in an environment that is professional, that is safe, and and we do have people in the jail that do care about those they serve. So this is something that the staff want, and that they buy off on. I can come in and say, this is what we're going to do, but it isn't going to do any good if they're not going to follow. And the staff buy off on the accreditation. They want a clean facility. They want professional staff. They want good direction, and they want good policy procedure, a mission, and a vision, and this is what gives us. When Brandy and I and the department think about the adult side, I'll have to be honest, sometimes I go run in my office and I close the door on that one. There's a lot of unknowns with that, because right now we're having to worry about, is it just the adult detention center? Is it separate from the annex? Do we have to have two different accreditations? And then there's tons more statistical work and stuff like that. And it will take also, which I believe there is the beginning, but it's going to take a culture shock at the adult detention center too. I think they buy off on it, but they know that the work is worth it. And we've seen it, and in the salary increases that you've given us and things like this, they're starting to see that this is just not a job, it's a career, and I think this qualifies that.
Brian, again, congratulations on the accreditation from the ACA to you and your team. Look forward to having updates as we talk about the adult facility in the future.
Absolutely.
Captain, I did see John Knight's shoulders slump a little bit when you said that reaccreditation is 10 times harder than accreditation, because John Knight was pretty stressed with the accreditation of the Parks and Recreation. So it shows what you have to look forward to, John.
Yes, it is tough.
So, thank you.
Anything else, Bill?
Sure. Did the accreditation board make any recommendations as far as changing the physical structure of our jail, or adding personnel, or adjusting the way we use our personnel?
The one standard that we were not in compliance with is the standard regarding having over 20% of our multiple occupancy rooms, because we should have more single occupancy rooms. And we're not in compliance with that because 2 of our juvenile modules have multiple occupancy rooms in it. The problem with making those single occupancy rooms, though, is then we're not in compliance with the Kansas Department of Children and Families, because we're licensed by them, and we're licensed to house up to 70 juveniles. So if we make all those single occupancy rooms, then we have a problem possibly housing up to 70 juveniles in there. So they've given us a waiver on that, and they agree that that isn't something that we really necessarily need to try to meet. But otherwise, they've given us some suggestions on some different ways to deal with the juveniles' mail, to make sure their incoming mail and their outgoing mail, to make sure we've got good records of that, and we've already put those practices into place. So we do get a lot of good feedback from the auditors while they're here, and we usually try to make sure if it's something that we can do, that we go ahead and start getting in practice in place right away.
Well, once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Next item of business, please.
Item 2, unfinished business. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-57, 2019 Memorandum of Understanding with Keep America Beautiful for the collaboration in planning of activities throughout the park system.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. Before I start, I would like to congratulate the Shawnee County Department of Correction. We have heard the same thing about Parks and Recreation accreditation, that getting the accreditation is easier than maintaining and operating that, so we know that that's a challenge, but congratulations to you guys on that. What I would say is on this item here, the last Thursday, this item was before the County Commissioners. It was deferred or tabled for 1 week to answer some questions. What we've done since that last meeting on Thursday was I had Randy Luby, who runs our advisory board process for us. I had him amend the agenda for the advisory board, which was held on Tuesday night. Sent the contract to them. They reviewed those documents, and it was an item that was placed before them. When the item came up on the advisory board, we had one person bring up some comments, basically, and that person's comments were basically how wonderful Keep America Beautiful was, which we already knew that already because they're our biggest supplier of volunteers, our biggest partner in that. But some of the other things that that I did want to make sure that the advisory board knew, and I'll bring to you guys too as well, is basically this is really about establishing communications and timelines so that we can treat all of the groups similarly and that not all of the groups come in and not give us enough notice, because there's a lot of expectations put on us, which is why we hired a volunteer coordinator as well too, is to make sure we have staffing there, make sure our events are coordinated with the activities of these volunteers, all of those type of things. We also wanted to make sure that since Keep America Beautiful was our biggest supplier and our biggest partner on these volunteer services, that whatever process we came up with would be able to be workable with that association as well as all of the others that would come along and work, so we have a good, consistent process. With that, after I said those type of things, the board member then followed up with, yeah, but Felicia and Keep America Beautiful are always wonderful. So I assume I met their needs at that meeting, but in addition to that, I did have, after the advisory board, I did have staff, and it was primarily Olivia Mayer back here, who's in her division is the volunteer services. They reached out and visited with Felicia to ensure that, Felicia McKee with Keep America Beautiful, to be sure we weren't putting some kind of process in place that didn't work for her. Of course, she would rather have no processes, but she understood that we needed to have some and felt she could work through that. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Questions for Mr. Knight? Motion?
I would move that we authorize the execution of the contract.
Second.
Motion made to approve the contract by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Next item,
Commissioners.
please.
Item 2 under unfinished business, consider approval of request to create an unclassified position of Business Technology Coordinator with a salary of $34.32 hourly with funding from the 2019 budget.
Morning, Commission. Herman Jones, Shawnee County Sheriff there. Wasn't able to make it last meeting there, but I think we had some questions or so about this position that we had here for our Business Technology Coordinator there. I'm here to assure you that this is a qualified individual. He coordinates with our Shawnee County IT department as well. And the biggest thing that comes from this right here is in 2015 is when we had a IT person from the county that was assigned to the sheriff's office to manage the record management and other items such as that right there, which takes on a big demand. And at that time of 2015, that individual, Lloyd Trimble, had retired, and it was taken at the point that Shawnee County was not going to place someone there, and that we would have to manipulate with the personnel from the pool as like all the other agencies. That became quite a struggle for us because we were migrating to the new platform of our new world, and of that it took a lot of man hours or personnel hours to do that. So what we've done is we resorted basically to contracting with the individual. This individual has been working with us, has been an employee as a temporary employee as well as a contract. He has been to numerous training to the point that he has been the call-to individual for several other agencies throughout the state for his expertise on this matter right here. He has basically been able to relieve some of the things that come from Pat's office there on individuals and work orders and those type of things right there. For the most part, he is a very qualified individual. So.
I did speak to Pat Oblander this morning, and he does support this move. It's $100,000 plus that will be in your budget now. And I understand that you understand that,
Right.
and it's.
Yeah.
I hope it pays for itself.
Oh, yeah.
In the long run. Are there questions for the sheriff about this issue? Commissioner?
Sheriff, given the cost, or by making this a full-time position within your department, is it better for your department rather than having it be an independent contractor like you have been doing, or?
What happens is there are numerous times because he's not there all the time, when we have issues that it gets deferred or to get delayed or so, and there's some things that are pretty imminent and has to, we just have to work around that. By having a full-time, he'll be there all the time, and we can work through some of the things. We are constantly making improvements or enhancements, as we know, upgrades with those, and sometimes there are several bugs. When we're talking about the RMS, the records management system, as well as the CAD for our dispatch, some of those fixes need to be done immediately because we're dealing with the situation of people making emergency phone calls. We got to get information. We're talking about warrants, information that we need to get out to the officers when they have an individual. So it's it will prove to be very prudent to have this individual full time.
Is this going to be a cost saving over the using an independent contractor?
Basically, what it could be, we lock in by having an individual right here. And when we're talking about $100, that's the cost, that's the benefits that go along with that. That's what total comes right there. And we're cognizant of what it will have for our budget right there. But if we go out to a budget, one of the things that the chair took an item off of the agenda was simply because we were trying to extend for an individual to come in to be full-time, work with our radio systems there. That individual has elected to go to a higher paying position. So those are the things that we're looking at. So
I'll move to approve the request.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0.
all right,
Good to
thank
see
you,
you,
sir.
Sheriff.
You bet. Same here.
Next item, please.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Questions or comments? There were 5 issues on the consent agenda.
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
All right. Under building maintenance, Torgerson Electric Company, $13,943.82 is for the Crestview Shelter and Park Lighting. Under District Attorney, Shawnee Mission Ford, Inc., total $82,296 for 3 Ford Explorers. Total vouchers for January 30th, 2019 is $938,289.10. I move that we approve the vouchers.
Second.
Motion made to approve the vouchers by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move to approve the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A3, consider approval of renewal of tax exemption incentive for economic development for year 4 for HME Inc. expansion number 3. And we are getting to the end of this. I think this is the last one, or possibly, well, I think this is the last one. So, well, if you would have, counselor has looked at it, and they've met the requirements and held the positions, so we are ready for renewal.
Okay.
You are.
I move that we approve the renewal.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, corrections. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C62-2019 with Heartland Masonry for repair of masonry in 4 areas of the Department of Corrections at a cost of $7,400 with funding from contingency funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This has been kind of a long process of collecting good bids and being able to find and the specs to go out to find the appropriate person or company to come in and make these repairs. Unfortunately, we did have an inmate who does suffer with mental illness, who has been to Larned and back, did do some damage to a wall or in several areas of our special housing area. We are doing a very thorough review. There was an incident a couple weeks ago that I came to the commissioners regarding an inmate who had damaged a window, and I had asked for an investigation. I got that report. I'm going to be reading that report today. But we have another incident where we have an inmate, this one a little different with some mental health issues, but did do some damage to the cell and to the wall in some different areas, and that these are safety and security conscientious needs. We did work with Betty regarding contingency funds for these. Those things aren't expected, and I'd stand for any questions you have. But that brings me concern when we have somebody who does significant damage to a cell, and I think it causes for us to do a pretty good review of our systems in place up there to prevent this from the future.
Very good. Questions for Mr. Cole?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B2, consider approval of request to purchase a subscription to the Kansas Rules of Court to be used in the inmate law library at a cost of $357 with funding from the inmate account.
Good morning again. This is Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. One of the things, a part of our accreditation and rights that inmates have is access to the courts and law library. We do have those items there, but one of the things that Major Kendall did remind me of, and is that we do, and she was reminded of, is that we don't have a subscription, and that is something that has to be approved through the commissioners. So we're asking that we be able to have a membership subscription for this. For our law library, the money will come from the inmate account. It's for their use. This is something that meets with our accreditation, but also is something that we're legally required to provide. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Thank you.
Item C, Human
Thank you, Brian.
Resources. Number 1, consider approval of Resolution Number 2019-6, adopting the Human Resources Policy Manual for Shawnee County.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. Before you today, we have you all have an executive summary for the changes to the Human Resources Policy Manual. I don't know if you'd like me to go through some of the changes or highlight the key changes there.
Yeah, I would, if you would highlight the key changes.
Sure. We, of course, have some definition changes there. One of the key changes is we've moved to a provision to review the HR policy manual every 2 years. This is a living document, and it's something that hasn't been reviewed in the last 10, so we'd like to move to 2. We changed the way we fill vacant positions. We moved the exemption from the Enterprise Funds Department to have to come for BCC approval. We put that back in so that everyone would come before the BCC for approval of positions. Moving expenses, we removed the provision for self-moves in moving expenses. Hours worked, removed language in the off-the-clock section. Maintenance of the compensation plan, we removed the ability for the Human Resources Director to suspend the rules of it. That's something that would need to come before the BCC. Scheduling of interviews. We have technology now, so not everyone is going to come in from a far-off place. We can Skype and do other things. Procedures, we clarified the new hire probationary period for classified employees be 120 days, and that probationary evaluation should happen during that time. Driving and mobile devices, we added a section about driving and mobile devices in our county policy manual. We updated and included all the IT policies that Pat brought before you into this manual as well. Our social media policy, that's also part of all the technology policies that we have. Many of the, county departments have Facebook pages, and we now have some rules about how they should be maintained. We added a section on our anonymous reporting hotline so that all the employees know where that is and the number to find that. We added disciplinary action and due process hearing, a rule that says you have to have 5 days given there when you are going to have a disciplinary hearing. We added language that clarifies what happens in the event of a terminated employee if they fail to return county property. County-owned vehicles, we added a policy where there's no smoking in county-owned vehicles. We added language about reporting the loss of a license to your supervisor or the appointing authorities and how that comes to HR. So all of our drivers have to keep their licenses valid and ready. We also added a provision for CDL physicals. We had a policy where the county paid for every 2 years if you needed a physical, and now we're going to every year if you're required to have a physical. And those are a highlight of the changes to the HR policy manual.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Cook.
Just noting the long time that the HR department has spent in updating the regulations. This is something they've been working on for many, many months to get updated and to us. And so just recognizing the hard work that's gone into it. So thank you to the entire team.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, this is important. And it's overlooked sometimes. It's been 10 years. And some of these things are mundane, but they are important in how we do business in Shawnee County. And again, thank you.
Thank you. It was a true group effort. We couldn't do it without the counselor's office, without all the directors who gave input, and without you as the commissioners who gave input as well. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you again.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion made to adopt by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0 again.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item D has been pulled. Item 5, administrative communications.
This is an opportunity for department heads or any member of the public to address the commission. Mr. Niehaus is up.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works and Solid Waste. First this morning, I have an announcement. This coming Saturday, is the first Saturday of February. That means the Household Hazardous Waste Facility will be open. It's located on 131 Northeast 46th Street. It'll be open from 9 to noon. We welcome the public's visitations. Okay. The second thing I would like to do is I would like to recognize Vince Bateman. Vince, how are you this morning?
Doing real well.
Vince is a 25-year employee, and I want to recognize his focus on his work, his dedication, and, as you'll see, his keen eyesight. Because all three of these attributes probably led to avoiding a tragic accident. Vince, you see, was out on his commercial route here recently. It was dark out, and he was doing what he normally does with his front loader truck. He was lifting these steel containers. He lifts them up, lifts them over, and they go into the truck body. On this occasion, he, just before the container went out of sight, he saw a gentleman's hand come out of the container, and because of that, this gentleman probably avoided serious injury or even death. So again, I would like to recognize Vince for the great work he does. I think he exemplifies the great work that goes on in solid waste, and with that, I'll let you ask some questions. Oh, by the way, his story appeared first front page of the Capital Journal.
It did.
Any question?
Is there anything you'd like to tell us, Vince?
Well, on that, it was December 5th, 2019. That's a day I will always remember. This day, it just, I mean, to do my job is, and if you understand how a front loader works, the story reads 2 seconds until death. But what happens is once you get into the container, you bump it and jar it and everything else as a safety procedure. But once you start picking that up and it goes above the window, that's 2 seconds. And that gentleman that was in there sleeping in that container, that's why it was 2 seconds until death, because once it goes up and dumps, he's now on the bottom. All that trash comes down. And then once I hit the packer, that's 1,500 to 2,000 pounds per square inch coming down on him. That individual was very lucky to be alive. That morning, when this happened, I come up to it. It had a lock bar. And we've had problems with the homeless in Topeka, cutting locks, cutting lock bars, breaking into our containers. But what happened was I went and got the lock bar off the top of the container, which makes a lot of noise. He didn't come out. I got back into my truck, got into the container with the forks, picked it up off the ground about a foot, and there's wires above, so I had to back it out into the alley. The alley's rough, the container's shaking. Still nothing. But on that day, the Holy Spirit was really pressing down on me saying, watch your container, watch your container. And when you understand how this works is once it starts going up, the front loader, once I start picking it up, once it gets about part way after I leveled the container to go all the way up, I look over to the mirror to watch when the container turns up. And then I focus on the camera. By that time, if it would have went up, he would have more than likely died out of it. But like I say, I got it out into the alley to get out from underneath the wires. I started picking it up, and like I said, the Holy Spirit was saying, watch your lids, watch the lids. And sure enough, right before it was going above the cab of the truck, a hand came out. I put the container back down. I got out to talk to the guy. Very non-compliant. I mean, he had to be on some sort of substance or alcohol or something. But like I say, this was a locked container. Even the side doors, the one on the right side was locked, the one on the left, the door, they must have cut it off. But the thing is, it was dark then. You can't look in there and see anything. It's so dark. So, like I say, I got out to talk to him and tell him, hey, by the grace of God, you were saved. It's not by me, it's not by my works, it's by what the Holy Spirit did. And I told him, I said, you got to get out of there so I can dump this. His shoes was off and he lost them in the dumpster. So what I did is I told him, I said, I got to get you out of here. And he says, I can't. I really couldn't make out what he was saying, but he was kind of referring to he couldn't get out. So I got the container back over, left all the lids open, called my supervisor up to let him know what had taken place. So if the customer calls in to complain saying I left their trash and left all the lids open, there was a reason behind that. And this is just one instance, but there's several more. The homeless in Topeka is just getting more and more, and that's going to be a county issue later on down the road. There's a lot of bicycles out in the middle of the night, like in the hours that I run. They're all over town. They're running with little trailers. They're going up and down alleys. Some of them won't even have lights. I've had one guy shoot right out in front of me, you know, going down 6th Street on, just shot out right in front of the truck. So it's getting harder and harder to get the trucks around with the homeless out there. I usually have a little joke that says, I'll watch as the world burns through a trash window of a truck. But see, this is going to be an issue for the county eventually. It's getting more and more troublesome, and even with the meth out there on the streets and that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be something that the county might want to have a view on later on, because like I say, what goes on in Topeka spreads out. It will come out to the county. And other than that, I mean, all I can do is give all praise be to God that the guy lived. See, he delivered him from death, delivered me from the guilt and shame of killing him.
Wow.
And that would have been a mark on my record.
Wow.
But I'd just like to say thank you. And this whole thing, I never even had, I went to church during Joys and Concerns. I said, give all praise be to God, I didn't kill someone. Just happened to be that day a news reporter was in back and he came running up, I got to have this story. He said, I got to have this story.
Wow.
Well, the beard and long hair, I have a ministry, and I go out and I dress as a biblical character, and I go into a nursing home and I preach the gospel to the residents there. But that's what the beard and long hair is for. But so you kind of understand what we're going through out there, because like I say, the homeless is, they're getting they're making homes in the corrals. They're cutting locks. They're doing everything they can to get into the containers, and that I've seen the last 3 years, it's just getting progressively worse. Even driving on the street the last 3 years has been progressively worse. The whole moral foundation of the system is coming down. It's just something we got to face facts with. This is something, like I say, I would keep it on your radar for things further down the road. And I'd like to say thank you for me having a voice here.
Wow. What a story. I'm so glad you came today and told your story, and I'm thankful for the department director. I'm thankful, Kurt, that you brought Vince in. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Good job.
Thank you, Vince.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'm going to try. Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oakes from the Health Department. I just want to remind the public that Monday, the Health Department, in partnership with Child Care Aware of Eastern Kansas, will be hosting a free child care licensing orientation at the Health Department from 1 o'clock to 3:30 at our building at 2600 Southwest East Circle Drive. I don't know if you were aware of this, but here and nationally, child care slots and centers and homes, the numbers are decreasing. And so in Shawnee County, we've seen a 22% decrease of licensed daycare homes between 2014 and 2018. So this is a way for us to reach out to folks who think, gosh, maybe I'd like to be a child care provider, to come see what it's about at no cost to you. There's no obligation, just come and see the information, and there will be some refreshments. And so if anyone has questions, they can call 251-5750. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else brave enough to come forward this morning? Commissioner Cook.
Commissioners, last evening I had the opportunity to attend the National Alliance on Mental Illness banquet recognizing the work of mental health, and Vallejo was one of the recognized partners in their contribution to the community, but it was a good banquet to attend and celebrating ending the stigma of mental illness. Along that same line, today at noon, we're going to be kicking off Project Topeka, the fundraiser for the food drive, of which Shawnee County is a big participant. And we do a fundraising drive, and you'll be seeing items come to our office for an auction. And I would encourage everybody to contribute, and because it does help give back to that community. What Vince was talking about, making sure that those individuals that are homeless or needing do have assistance. So, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rippon?
Yes, well, appropriately enough, on Kansas Day, they opened the Cyrus Hotel downtown. I think it's a great addition to downtown in Shawnee County, and it was a wonderful facility. I saved some hors d'oeuvres from going into the dumpster. And can't top your story. But anyway, if you get a chance to go through there and look at the facility, it's very nice.
Very good. Thank you. I don't have anything to add this morning, so next item of business, please.
Item 6, executive session.
There is a need for an executive session this morning. I want to make a motion to go into executive session for a period not to exceed 20 minutes to discuss employer-employee negotiations with representatives of the public body, specifically to discuss the county's contract with the Teamsters. That will require 15 minutes. Also to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel, and also for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, and that is a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you all for coming today.
walks around and tell them exactly the little hour clock, oven timer, what that they turn on. And then they, when it buzzes, they'll go, oh, we gotta do this. Okay, you can go back to the meeting if you want to. Commissioner, you
We ready?
Yes.
We're back in session. No action is required. We're officially adjourned. Thank you.